Hi, and welcome to the Indie Music Podcast, the podcast for independent musicians and other audio professionals. We're your hosts. I'm Matt Denton, also known as Mojo of Ragged Birds Music. I'm a Bay Area mix engineer and recording artist. And Douglas Reynolds of Resonance Mastering, a mastering engineer in Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome to Indie Music Podcast, episode 206. Tonight we interview Eline Chavez with Onism E. We get to chat with Eline about her band, the upcoming album release, Survivors, and get to know a little bit more about her and the band, the work that they've put into the recording and producing of the album, and we get to listen to some sound clips. Enjoy the episode. All right, well, welcome to tonight's episode 206, and we are very excited to have Eline Chavez with us in the studio this evening. Eline's band is, and correct me if I say it wrong, but is it Onism E?
Onism.
Onism. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Onism E is the name of her band. And tonight we are grateful to be able to sit down and talk about what Eline has going on and about her band. I know we've got some new music coming up shortly that we're looking forward to. With that, Eline, would you want to tell us kind of a little bit about what you've got going on and where you're located and what's going on?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. So greatly appreciate it. Let's see. Well, it's kind of weird. We're a little bit split based, but not really. Like I was living in New York for a while. And so all my bio says New York, but I came in for South by Southwest is kind of how it worked out. South by Southwest of last year. And when it went kaput, I stayed local because my family's here. My parents are here. And so that's the long and the short of it. But then I found the fellas that played on the album that's getting ready to come out here in San Antonio. So it just kind of the intersection of the Bermuda Triangle, maybe, but in a good way, because they wound up helping me put the album together. So
yeah, what's the name of the album?
We have titled it Survivors, which was actually the first track we released a little earlier this year. So we kind of ran with that because it's just an ongoing thing, I think, with 20 and 21. If you survive, you do well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
True story.
Now, yeah, has the band been working together remotely, or have you been getting together in the studio? Are you all located in the same city?
We are all in San Antonio. We have not work together though, because because of the pandemic, obviously, it's been kind of crazy. And what actually sparked the whole thing was, like I said, I came in for South by. We came in to play some shows. I hired these guys, and then no South by, no shows. And I was like, hey, I'm here. You have recording gear at home. I have recording gear at home. What do you think if I just shoot you a drum track real quick and the basic rhythm, and you just lay a bass line on it? And it was my bass player, Chris. And he was like, yeah, sure, we can try that. And thus the journey began.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah. And then I just did the same thing with my guitar player. It takes a lot longer, and it's
I was going to ask
near
you how long that takes.
It takes a while. It takes, we're in the studio, you kind of just go, nah, that doesn't sound right. It's like, if they would send something to me and I was like, no, that's not cool. You got anything else in your back pocket? That kind of deal. It could delay the process, but I've actually known Chris Rodriguez, the bass player, for probably at least 15 years. And I had worked with him a long time ago. And so when he was on board to kind of help me out, I knew one of two things was going to happen. Everything he sent me was going to be golden, or everything he sent me was going to be golden. And that has been the case. Like, he sends me something, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm gonna have to change how I play the guitar, but that's no big deal. I like your groove better. And
awesome.
Yeah, so it from the bass rhythm section area pretty fast. The lead guitars, the things outside of that cut to build the songs took a little bit longer, because you just don't have that same live energy. It's just
right.
Like, how do you think this sounds? 3 days later, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's like an order of magnitude longer, but you get to take your time and kind of get it right, though, right?
Absolutely. It has made, on one end, it's made it kind of take a little longer, but on the other end, it's like nobody's staring at you. And when you're in a
True.
studio paying by the hour and waiting for, your guitar player to get that one lick right without putting his big fat thumb on something, um, you know,
Yeah. Well, I'll say it sounds fantastic. I was listening to it earlier.
Yeah.
well, thank you. Thank you. That's,
And I know you
I
do
think
the
it's a good sign
mixing.
of things to come. Yeah, I do.
And how do you like that compared to, say, writing?
It's two different, it's two different beasts on how much I hate myself afterwards. I'll write something and I'll think, man, this is pretty cool. And then by the time we're done and we got all these amazing pieces, I'm like, man, this song sucks. What was I thinking? And the same kind of happens with when I sit down to mix it. 'Cause I'm just like, okay, well, I'll pan this slightly left and maybe do a little reverb or something over here. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds cool. And then I take it to my truck and I do that, the infamous car check.
Right.
I'm like,
car check.
I'm like,
Or
oh my God, this
truck
is
check
awful.
in your case.
Yes. Back to the drawing board.
So let me ask, do you mix it because you enjoy mixing it, or because is that out of necessity, or is out of habit, or do you just don't want to give it up? Or because I do both, I write and I mix, but I do it more out of like necessity and also cheapness. But I'm curious how what your experience is.
Mine comes a little out of necessity, a little out of cheapness, and a lot out of there's always just that vision in my head that says, like, if I can get this to sound this way, then maybe it'll hit somebody in the chest a little harder, or maybe it'll get them in the feels, if you will, a little more, to where they just think, oh yeah, I get that lyric, or I get that riff, and that riff just gives me the chills, kind of a deal, especially with dealing with Chris Vargas, the lead guitar player. Like, it took me forever to get him out of the pocket, to get him out of his own head. But once I did, and he would send me things, and I'm like, man, where has this been? And so, and then I go into that mix and I'm like, yeah, I got to tweak this just right so that people feel what I just felt, which was like, shit, that's good.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So I was reading that you have toured extensively as a drummer.
Yes.
And what was that experience like in touring all over the world, I guess?
It's one of those things where I learned how to play again out of necessity. Being a woman in the rock world, I think most women will tell you, is not always easy. And so I have gone through many a band trying to find that right feel, and when it doesn't happen, it's a real big bummer. And I just got to where I have to be self-sufficient. I have to be able to share my vision, and then from there find people that see my vision, as opposed to trying to put a spin on it. Like, I'm a total vibe drummer. And so when I'm able to find people that get my vibe, it's awesome. It's wonderful. But that's been hard. A lot of guys don't like, and I, not to pigeonhole guys. I have a band full of men, and I love them all. But it's hard to get the guys to want to play with women a lot of times. And I don't know why that is. So I've learned to be real self-sufficient. So I took a couple of drumming lessons, and I did a whole lot of school of Dave Grohl, and
right.
Oh yeah.
And then people realize, oh, well, she's a drummer too. Oh, okay. Well, cool. Do you want to come, sit in my session? I'm getting ready to work on this album, or, I'm getting ready to go do this thing. I'm going to tour for 6 months. You want to come with me? Well, if it pays my bills, sure.
Yeah. So here's a weird question. Did you find it harder to gel with bands as a drummer that may or may not have had the same vision as a band, or as a woman, or both?
No, I think I've been lucky in that most of them were friends of mine, so they knew what they were getting,
Sure.
And then for those that didn't know what they were getting, well, they had heard me play for a friend of mine, and then they were like, "Hey, I heard you play for so and so, you're kind of cool. You want to come hang out with us?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll try anything once."
Sure.
Do you miss drumming, or do you still drum? When you said you lay down a drum track and send it to your bassist, you're playing the drums.
Yes. Yeah. I have a little setup where I'm able to track on my DW kit. And
Nice.
that obviously the cruddy part is that Raj didn't get to spend a lot of time in the studio with me, but he's such an amazing drummer that like I'm excited to have him on board to not only play what I came up with, but to give it his own spin. And then hopefully sometime towards the end of the year, we can go in as a full band and do something cool.
Nice. So you have a full studio then at your location?
I do. I have a room that's just dedicated to this, and it's not the biggest, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, if you're tracking live drums, it's a decent size, right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially my DW kit. It's kind of a behemoth. It's a 22-inch kick drum. That's
right.
Yeah, takes. I was like, bigger is better, and now I'm like, oh my god, what was I thinking?
So I think it's really admirable. I mean, obviously, you're just getting ready to release your new album, and so the majority of that work obviously happened in 2020. So we've got all the chaos of the pandemic and the challenges that brings. And as you mentioned, the remote work with your other band members and doing the remote tracking and things like that, and sharing files and everything that goes along with that. So, I mean, that's a big challenge that, undertaking to continue to create music. Obviously, you guys worked really hard for that. Did this start in 2020, or had you begun prior to that? How long has this project actually been going on?
I actually, yes to all that. It has been difficult. Pandemic has been weird, inspiring, saddening, maddening, you name it. And so I think any musician, and most of the musician friends that I've had, it's been a writing fest of how do I get the oogie feeling in my chest out. And so when I first started writing, it was, I've finally kind of gotten back into music myself, because I'd been a session player for a few years where I had kind of given up on playing, and I just thought maybe I don't have anything left to say. And then I had some things that kind of happened in 2018 that kind of got me to stick my head out a little bit, and then 2019 a little bit more. And I was like, I think I have stuff that I can write about. So I was getting ready for South by Southwest was a set of songs. And then, like I said, the pandemic hit, and it kind of changed all of those songs. So I took them down because I had them up on, all the platforms. And I realized that some were still strong, but they could have been stronger. And I had moments of, I have something to write about what's going on right now with all these marches and all the different, the civil unrest that was happening and the heartache behind that. It just became a very big, I have something to say now. This directly impacts me. This directly impacts my family. This directly impacts my band. So it was really just, I'm going to write what I'm thinking right now. And I don't care if it offends anybody. Because I think that's what gets me into trouble sometimes. I think about, that might not go well, and that might not go well. And I finally was just, I'm going to write. And it was just kind of one thing after another in terms of like, I have something to say. We're able to work. Let's do it. It's going to suck. It's not going to be as cool. We're not going to have any drunken debauchery at the studio with whiskey and, people playing badly. It's just, but we're going to get it done. And I think I kind of went all around your question. I hope I answered that.
No, I think it was great because
really good.
What I'm getting is that the whole, like the album title Survivors is kind of built on this whole last year plus experiences of everything that you just described.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like Survivors, it kind of was, it was a funny, haha, but serious song. Like, if we can just get out of this and we can make it to post-pandemic and we can get back out there to play, we will have survived quite a bit. And hopefully we will have grown and we can be better people for it. So, yeah, all of the songs on there have something to do with, what did I learn? Who made me mad? Why did they make me mad? How how do I get past the mad? And then that realization that, you know what, we just had to be strong, and we have to get each other's back, and quit leaving each other in the dust. And, you know, we just have to have each other's back a little bit more to get past all this crazy.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds very cathartic and therapeutic. And I have to say, that's a bold move to take down the music that you already had out there and redo it because you knew that it could be better.
Yeah, you know, I'm especially with these guys. Like, I cannot tell you how ecstatic I am to be able to showcase their efforts in it, because like it's one of those things where you realize your song is good, and so I'm going to put it together. And I did it all by myself before, and then just I am very self-aware in that I know that with Chris Rodriguez's bass line, it's going to be 100 times better. And then if I can get Lefty to play from his heart and give me some raw edginess, that his lead will eclipse mine. And that's really what's happened. And I'm not one of those people that says, oh, well, you know, that's, I just don't have an ego. In that aspect, I want them to upstage me when it comes to their meaty goodness, you know. I think the song will sell itself, but I know that their love for music and their love for playing will make it shine that much brighter. So
that's a great attitude. I love that.
Yeah. And so the whole idea around, you know, being strong, staying strong and everything, I would like to ask you if it would be okay if we played a little bit of your music and maybe we could talk about that a little bit. Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'd like to play maybe like a minute of a song coming up off your new album called Be Strong. And here, I'll just put it on.
Cool.
I know the world seems so dark and weary, and I know how hard it's gotten to breathe. And I know that you're tired of fighting, and you think that no one says, but I do. And I can feel your sorrow. I do. I can feel your pain. 'Cause I too, I have been aching there with you. And I know we're getting out of this, okay. I do.
Very cool.
It's so powerful.
Thank you. That's probably one of
Yeah.
my favorite songs that's on there.
Yeah. What about it? Would you say what makes it one of your favorites?
It's it may not sound like that way, but it's my song to my girlfriend, and for her having to deal with me, because
I can relate to that.
I'm so
I need you to be strong because of me.
pretty much, you know. We were actually having this conversation last night, because it's like she lives in this. Only way to phrase it, and I don't. It's in no way disrespect to her. It's like she kind of lives in this bubble. She tries to see the light and everything, and because I'm so driven, as so many artists are, like we see the world around us, and we're like, oh my God, we can't just leave that alone. We gotta make our point too, and say, hey, you know, I know you're dealing with this. I know it sucks, but I'm right there with you, and you know, just hang tight. And I feel like she gets the grunt of how I see the world sometimes and how sad it makes me. And she's like so very supportive that I don't know what I would do without her. So yeah, it's kind of it started off as a song to her, and then it went to the left.
I like that. I hear
Yeah,
a lot
me too.
of, I feel like I hear a lot of different influences in there. Can you tell us about some of your influences?
Well, I grew up thankfully with a brother and that was big into music. So he I think was always ahead of his time. So he was listening to Bonnie Raitt, as a
Oh,
teenager,
yeah.
and he introduced me to Melissa Etheridge, and I think I was like 10 or 11.
Nice.
And and then I went through a big REM Radiohead
Right.
period. Of course, I had my Dave Grohl addiction when I heard about how he works sometimes, and I think I might be the female version of him in some weird way.
Your style's a little jazzier. He's a little more hard hitting, I want to say.
Yes, for
I like
sure.
the groove drumming.
Yeah, I had a drummer who a while back. It was kind of a funny story because he was. It later came out that he had Tourette's, and that was part of the reason why he played the way he did, which was kind of groovy, kind of rock, kind of sitting back in the pocket, but sometimes he would speed up. And I think I felt like I stole a lot from him in some ways because he was he was a solid drummer. It didn't work out for us in the long term, but he played with me for almost a decade as well. So
wow. A decade, and how long did it take you before you realized he had Tourette's?
I think we found out in like the last year or two.
Wow.
Yeah. Because he'd be like, "Man, you got to go check that out," and then and then finally he did. And he was like, "Yeah, it turns out that's probably why I got fast hands and I'm able to do some of the stuff I do." And I was like, "Well, then it's a wonderful blessing to us because we've done some pretty interesting things with those speedy hands of yours."
Nice.
So it sounds like your music and your lyrics are really just honestly telling a story about your own experiences, and so you're really putting it out there.
Yeah, it leaves me really vulnerable to craziness sometimes, but at the same time, it's like you live one life, and if I can relay a message to somebody where they feel it and they feel less alone, or like maybe they're not the big weirdo that they thought they were, then I've done good.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think people can pick up on that honesty.
Yes,
and that type of, albeit hard, to get past putting that stuff out there on your sleeve, makes for something that people can connect to probably more often than not and find their own meaning from that and connect emotionally into it.
Well, I hope so. Like I said, I mean, I think if I can do that at some point, with everything that I write, then I feel like I've accomplished it, my goal, so to speak. That I just, if I could get one person out of a dark hole, then I'm okay. I did good.
I'm sure our listeners would love to hear a little bit of something else here. I've got a couple more songs I can choose from. I have Reach or Stay. Would you have one that you'd like to choose for me to play some?
No, I'll let you. You picked the good one at the beginning. I'll let you pick number 2 too.
Okay.
I like
I'm gonna
Stay.
Play. You want to hear Stay?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear Stay.
All right.
Looking in the mirror, sometimes it's so hard to breathe. I'm still picking up the pieces you left behind me, and I caught my reflection, just a shell of who I used to be. And I know it's not that bad, but then the ache takes over until I scream, stay, stay, stay. Don't you set me free, don't you set me free. I will give you my
I do too.
It reminds me a little bit of The Call.
I love the grooving.
I'm sorry, it reminded you of what?
The Call, remember The Call?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that song's been kicking around for a while. But it didn't sound as cool until the boys did their work on it. So
nice.
I know you've this was all recorded and separately and everything. I get a real live feel from your recordings, though. Does the band play live a lot when we have different situations going on?
we will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's the plan. Like we want to get back out there. So we're like,
Yeah. Is that really where it's at for you? Or is it love the studio, but can't wait to get back out and get in front of an audience type of feel?
I think it's the otth way around. Hate the studio, love to be out there.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Like, man, yeah, Chris, the bass player, and I, we've been in and out of bands since we were, old enough to find somebody to pick us up and haul our gear around. And,
Nice.
and the same thing with the drummer. The only one who's been a little bit more kind of like the diamond in the rough is our guitar player, Chris. But yeah, we just love to play live. And so we've even, done cover bands, which, it's one of those things where we just kind of say it real quickly. Oh yeah, I was in cover bands. Done. Right. Just so we could be out there. Cause there's nothing, I love to play live. I love when people know lyrics, and which, when you're indie, that's like everything. That's your Grammy. You know my lyrics? I'm good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
well,
totally.
It looks like you guys did a photo shoot with masks on. So I know you did get together in a room at some point.
We did. We've done a couple of things together. Like we did the video for Survivors as well together, together separately, if you will, because we kept a good distance. We kept wearing our mask. And mostly, I've got my parents are older. My drummer's parents are older. They're all on the older side. So we've just been very careful when we do get together. So yeah, we recorded that in a really big space, and then we wore masks, and then we took pictures the same way, and we're real careful about that as well.
Well, good.
So we know what each other looks like.
You want to run through the band members' names again?
Sure. There's Chris Rodriguez. He's on the bass. We call him C-Rod. And then we've got Raj Arenas on the drums. Chris Lefty Vargas on the lead guitar. And then I'm Eline. I write the things.
And let's see. And your website is?
Just Onism E, onisme.com.
Onisme.com. I like saying that, although I haven't been doing very well at saying it tonight. But
what's the origin of that name?
Yeah.
The word it's basically that frustration of knowing you can only be in one space at any point in time, and there's so many places else that you could be. And that's, just speaks to my wanderlust. Like I'm not known to stay put for very long.
That's a cool concept.
You guys you're also out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and also Bandcamp.
Yep.
So you have lots of places where fans can find you.
And we'll have all those links on our show notes page.
Yeah. If they stick their head out the window and they're living in San Antonio, they call out to me, I might hear them. It's so quiet.
Is that right?
It's not the city for sure.
California. So you said you were originally from California and then went to New York. Is that correct?
I'm originally from California, but we grew up mostly here in San Antonio, and then I took off as soon as I could. I think we all did. I went back to California. Went back to California and spent some time in Georgia. Spent a little time in Massachusetts, and then finally got to New York, and I was like, this is home. This is where I feel the most comfortable.
Very cool.
Let's see. Is it February 19th, the Survivors release date? Is that the plan?
That is correct. February 19th. It'll be available everywhere.
Everywhere. So available streaming on your favorite platforms, I would imagine.
Yes.
Excellent. We look forward to telling everybody about it.
Well, I want to say thank you again to both of you for having me. Like, so cool. I get giddy anytime somebody wants to know what I have to think about things. So I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a delight to meet you. A delight to talk to you. I really love your
likewise.
attitude and your spirit.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure meeting both of you. So don't be strangers.
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh, yeah. We'll be connecting out on social for sure. So looking forward to getting to know you better out there. And again, thank you so much for joining us on the show. This is fun getting to know you. And I hope that our listeners will find the same enjoyment in your music here on the 19th when Survivors comes out.
Wonderful. Thank you again. Thank you so very much on behalf of myself and the band. Because, if we could be sitting here in the same room, we would be talking to you and probably having a good time.
Yeah. Next time.
Next time for sure.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
And thank you.
You guys stay safe out there.
You too.
You too.
And to our listeners, thanks so much for listening to the show.
Yep. Have a great
week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Indie Music Podcast. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, or just leave us a review on iTunes if you like what you've heard. Find our social links and episode guide at indiemusiccast.com. Until next time, keep creating.